To be living elemental is to be living a more balanced life. I'm your host, Sara and the founder of Jade Scott Design. Through my interior design studio and Feng Shui practice, I awaken clients to the idea that their home is just as essential to their well-being as is to their mind and bodies. Essentially, nature's elements create balance and support, and through the lens of home, we can utilize their power when applied intentionally. Through this podcast, it is my intention to open you up to the idea that by living elemental through mind, body, and spirit will have a significant impact on your home and your life. I wanted to just say a few words about this episode. This was recorded last school year. My son Kylan, both of my kids transitioned to another school, and it was also at the time of me just getting this podcast up and running. I was practicing recording and learning how to edit. I do all of the producing for this podcast myself, and the kids were up for helping me out. And I thought, this is actually a really great conversation as is, but it's also really great for back to school. Going back to school, especially transitioning to a new one, is a really stressful time for our kids and grandkids. And sometimes words of encouragement are enough. And so we can work with intuitive guidance and the energy of our spaces to make a real impact. And so it's interesting that this was recorded a while back, and I wasn't sure if I'd actually ever release it, but it does kind of feel appropriate now. So take a listen to this pre-recorded episode with my sweet son, Kylan. All right, we have a special treat for you today. I have a really exciting guest on the podcast. He is probably one of the coolest dudes I know. And the even cooler part is he's only 9 years old. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Kylan, and I'm 9 years old. And today we're going to be talking about, we did an intuition reading where we would pull cards and stuff. So today we're going to talk about what mine was.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it because I think what's really cool for you and your sister is you've been watching your mom do all this intuition training. And, for the last 2 years, I go into my office one night a week and I meet with my intuition family. And you guys are probably like, what is she doing in there? Like, what is actually going down in there? Like, is that right? Are you always like, what is this? What is this intuition?
Yeah, it was like, what is going on in there? And then some nights I go to basketball practice, and some nights I'll get home and she's on with her intuition friends. And I'm like, what is happening in there? And then my dad's like, I don't want to say hi to my mom.
Oh, well, thank you. You're always welcome. And I bet you everyone at Intuition Lab would welcome you with open arms. But yeah, so let's talk about intuition. Kylan, if you had to define intuition, what is your definition of intuition?
To not think about it, just like use what your gut tells you to do.
Your gut. That's so good. I think the gut is where a lot of people feel it. The gut, that's where they feel it the most. I think everybody can relate to that gut feeling of intuition, but we took it one step further and we really did a nice little practice session. I was inspired after a meeting with some of my friends that get together now once a month. And I came home and said, you know what? Instead of watching TV, let's have a little intuition exchange, right? And I got to share with both Kylan and his sister a little bit about what it is that mom's been learning, and just do a little practice to start integrating this in your life, because that's part of my mission, is not only to share the message of intuition and how to use it, but especially honing and harnessing that skill and technique at such a tender age. You and your sister both are already so intuitive, as most children are. It's not until you grow up and become an adult that you start to lose it, because you listen to the outside world and they tell you to stuff it all down and you're doing it all wrong. But we know that that is not true, that our intuition is always there to guide us in any situation. It's honestly like your best friend, right? The best friend you always wanted, which is a great segue into your reading because Kylan, he he's in 4th grade.
No.
He switched schools this year, right? And it's been a little tough for the little fella. Huh? Do you want to share your experience with 4th grade so far?
So I not that many friends at school,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, there's like 5 main groups of the people. First, you have the football kids who are all on the same sports team. Then you have the kids who just play tag all the time. And then there's the smart kids, and then there's the not so smart kids. And then
That
there's
wasn't very nice. Hope they're not listening.
and then there is the and then there's the sporty kids.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I think for you, correct me if I'm wrong, you're trying to find where you kind of belong, right?
Yeah, I'm in like the middle of all the groups.
Well, let me just share with you too, because I actually meant to share this with you when we were doing this exercise, because it was so focused on, friendships and making new friends, going to a new school, all of those things. And all of those, we'll call them cliques, exist in all schools, okay?
Okay.
And when I was uh, in school, they existed as well for me. And I found what worked best for me was I kind of floated between all of them. Like I was really friends with kind of everybody, or at least one or two people from all those different cliques, as I said, just those groups. And I thrived well in that. And that could be a possibility for you. I know at your previous school you kind of had your own clique. And how would you describe your clique? Were you guys like what?
I kind of knew everybody in every grade because that my old school was super small. There was only like 2 classes per grade.
So now you're in a school where there's how many 4th grade classrooms?
There is 9 fourth grade
Oh
classrooms.
my gosh, yeah. So that's a lot of kids to try to find your crew, right?
Yeah.
Totally. So let's jump right in. So do you want to give us so with intuition, little backstory. When you want to work with your intuition, you really want to be asking a very specific question, right? So that you can get a very specific answer. And the one thing I always teach people is you want to stay away from yes, no kinds of questions and answers too, because I mean, you can, like I used to when I would work with a pendulum, it was very yes, no. But when you want to listen to your intuition, it really should not be a yes, no type of question. You really want to ask something specific and something that you can receive guidance on, because we learned by doing this exercise that we can get different what? Like we could get shapes, we could get colors, we could get words, we
Pe-
could get people, we can get songs sometimes. There's all kinds of
Anything.
ways, even physical sensations. You might feel for a lot of people that I work with, a lot of times that third eye, between the two eyebrows gets activated.
Chakra.
Yeah, the third eye chakra.
And I felt also a little bit tingly,
Did you? Interesting.
like my
Okay.
finger.
All right, so let's dive into your reading because I think the way this played out for Kylan was really kind of cool. And so let me just kind of paint the scene here. There was the three of us, myself, Kylan, and his sister Kendall, and we all chose a question that we wanted to receive guidance on, and we let Kylan go first with his question and then delivering his answer, and then we all kind of gave him what came to us as well. And we wanted to do it that way because we didn't want our intuition to, or what we received through our intuition to kind of sway his own. So we really wanted to hear from him and his own intuition first, because that's really the key is when you're practicing and learning more about intuition, it's really a trusting process. You want to be able to trust that intuition, that it's right and that it's leading you in the right way. So if you want to share your question, go for it.
My question was, is holding me back from making friends?
Great. Very, very great question. Very specific. It's not a yes or no. I mean, it could be a yes or no, but what we were really striving for is if it is, how, right? So we talk about in intuition that first drop in. That's like your first indicator of intuition because it sets in, it comes to you before your mind can even process around it, right? Okay. So go ahead and give us your drop in.
So Mom said to close your eyes and get in a comfy position, and then so I did, and then she said, imagine like there's a string on the top of your head, and there's something, and then there's an angel pulling you. So I did that, and I felt a little bit tingle. She said that, and then like it felt like spikes and needles, like when your foot or something is asleep. So when I got when I did that, I saw a green background and then pat.
Okay. So interestingly, PAP came up. Anything else you want to share about PAP?
Can I tell them the card?
Yeah. So I think too, what you wrote down was you saw PAP and then you saw smoking, right? Because PAP, he is a cigarette smoker. And then that was his first two drop-ins. And then he pulled a card. And so then the next step with card pulling is to really look at your card in a way that allows you to discern those drop-ins and how do they relate, right? So we know this is a podcast and we can't share the card visually. So I'm going to let Kylan kind of describe it. And you can lead us through the card. What was the first thing you noticed on the card, Kylan?
So the first thing I noticed was she has a feather in her mouth and she's holding it with like two fingers in between two fingers. It kind of reminded me of that. And then like she has big puffy hair.
Like an afro.
Like
It's an African American woman with a black afro with a feather. She's holding a feather in between her lips.
And her hair is like dyed, and it looks like there's like gray, like wiggly line on the hair. And I said it looks like smoke almost surrounding her. And then I noticed that um there is like not a full thing with full color, and there's not one straight line on there. It reminded me of Pap.
So what this card did for Kylan essentially is it validated what you got as a drop-in, right?
Yeah.
Right. So the card might not be telling us anything, right? But what the card is doing is it's validating the fact that we saw resemblances of PAP or smoking, and that was your first drop in. So the two connect, right?
Yeah. And remember the fact that it was a green background.
Yes, yes, green background. So then Kendall gave her insight. Her first drop in, you guys, okay, this is where it gets kind of cool. And we started having mouths drop open as we shared. So Kylan went first. He got those validation hits from his drop ins. Everything's aligning. Kendall gives her reading. The first thing Kendall saw in her intuition was a green button. Okay, there's that green again. And within the button, the word yes. And Kylan's question was, is Penn Hills holding me back from making new friends? And she got a very affirmative yes. And I love the fact that she got that green button background, just like Kylan had. Um, do you want to share anything about Kendall's that I didn't touch on?
So on her card, it cats, and she says, "I'm super calm," and a cat is super calm. And if and on the card, actually, the background is green leaves.
Green leaves.
And then it was, what is that symbol?
So it was also a jack of clubs, which a club to me represents a clover, right? Which
Yeah.
is also green. We got a
Uh-huh.
lot of green themed going on. So now we're moving kind of through his reading together. And of course, there was more conversation, but to kind of put it together in a podcast, we're giving you the highlight reel here. So anything else about Kendall's
So
before I move on to mine?
also, she said there was like birds, which were also super peaceful, but since the fact that the cat is looking at the bird doesn't remind me of that much people. The way it's
Well,
looking at it.
yeah, but then she also said that cats are fast, and to her, she felt that meant you're going to make friends fast. You just have to
Oh,
give it,
yeah.
give it a little time. So then we moved on to mommy's, and mommy's drop-ins were kind of irrelevant. I saw a bus and I saw a rectangle, and then the next word I wrote down was boxed in. And I had this kind of sense that Kylan maybe feels boxed in. And when we were talking about the different cliques or groups, if you will, that are in your particular grade, that maybe you felt like you had to box yourself in to a particular group. And that's when I wanted to share too, like you can float around to all of them.
Also, our bus is kind of crazy to go to school, and there was a fight on the bus before.
Mm-hmm.
There's loud people on the bus.
Yeah.
And I get anxious when there's really loud noises. I remember for the first 2 or 3 weeks, I was crying on the bus because I wanted mama.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can definitely relate. I can take myself right back to elementary school or middle school and remember just loud, obnoxious times on the bus. And I think that kind of relates back to Kendall's message of peace in her card too, where you like things to be a little peaceful as well. And I think we share that as a family. To be honest, we live in a very peaceful household. I believe. I think so. What do you think?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we do live in a very peaceful household. This is kind of off topic, but I love smoothies.
Yeah, we had smoothies for breakfast. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. I think people will really enjoy knowing that about you. Fun facts. I told you should start a Fun Facts with Kai show.
Fun facts with Kai.
Yeah, I'm already encouraging my kids to start podcasts. You should totally do it. I think it would be I really think it would be a hit. So back to my intuition reading. So the bus, the rectangle, the feeling of being boxed in, um, the best part about my reading was really when I pulled my card. So, and also I want to share, we all chose a different oracle deck for this reading, which was super fun. We let our intuition guide us to whatever deck we wanted. So I used a crystal deck, which is called Lavish Earth, and it's a great oracle deck for those who are just kind of dabbling in crystals, because there's tons of crystals and what they represent and how you can use them. I love this deck. So I picked go ahead. What would you like to share?
So before she tells
Well, wait. No, I think we should wait to tell that after,
Oh, yeah.
because it kinda okay, this is where it gets really, really cool, all right? So
this is not fake yet, though.
no, it's not.
And that sounds sarcastic, but it's actually.
I know. Well, that's when you first start working with your intuition, we always joke in Intuition Lab, you're like, "You can't make this stuff up." Like, it's just mind-boggling how it happens. But then once you get used to it, you're like, "Oh, yeah. I mean, that's how the universe works." I mean, this
You
is
sound
just
like my teacher.
Oh, okay,
Like
cool.
that voice.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So, the card I pulled, the crystal card I pulled, guys, green calcite. Okay? Green. Okay, this is where jaws dropped when we were all sitting in the living room together, right? So, the words that I pulled off the card was stability, an increase, manifestation. The message at the end of the card is, if green calcite had a mantra, it would be clear skies and smooth sailing, right? And for me, that was just a promising outlook for Kylan, that, you know what, you're going to meet the right friends, you're going to find the right clique, and maybe that's a little bit of everybody from each, right? That was kind of my holistic message. But Kylan wants to share, okay, the fact that it's a green calcite is just crazy cool, and I'll let him tell that. So go ahead, you can.
When we went to a crystal show, I got
Like,
one
okay,
crystal.
like what? Was this like pre-pandemic? Like,
This was like 2 years ago.
yeah, I mean, it might have been like right when, like, I don't even know. It was like 2 years ago. We'll just stick with that. Go ahead.
And then, we went to this crystal sale. I remember we were all still wearing masks.
Yes, you are. Okay, so we were in the middle of the pandemic, but restrictions were lifted and we were venturing out. Okay.
So, I went and I got one crystal, and it is in a pyramid shape, and it was actually green calcite, which Mommy ended up taking from me because she
I
likes
wish you wouldn't have shared that, but
because she wanted to have it displayed. But after we did this, it's a pyramid, which energy flows up from the top. And every morning now, I touch it to. I'm like, I'm gonna make friends. And
yeah, you set an intention with your crystal, right?
yeah. So the friend energy flows up, and now it's sitting in my window.
Yeah. So many cool things even came from that. So do you mind if I elaborate on your story a little bit? So we went to
Yes,
this.
please.
Okay, sorry, I didn't even wait for an answer. So rude. We went to the crystal show. The only one Kylan picks out, and I'm talking there was tables and trays of crystals everywhere. The only thing Kylan picks out is this green calcite shaped in a pyramid, okay? And he had it in his room, and of course he probably, he wasn't really paying attention to it. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna sneak this out of here and I'm gonna use this somewhere downstairs because it was a pretty piece and blah, blah, blah. I stole it basically, okay? So after I pulled this card, I knew exactly where this crystal was, and I thought, I gotta give it back to him. He needs this crystal, and he knew he was going to need it, even if it was 2 years later. So I handed him his crystal, and as he just shared, he put it in his window, which I want to elaborate on just a little further, was we looked at the Bagua map, which is a tool we use in Feng Shui, and we laid it out on top of his bedroom. And since that's his intention right now is to kind of grow his community, we looked at the community area of his Bagua map, and that is where this window is that he placed his crystal. And the coolest thing about the community area of the Bagua map, can you take a guess? I don't even know if I shared this with you when we did it.
Community. It's my friend.
It's like your ancestral family, but it's also like community building. It's represented on the Bagua map by the color. I swear to you, look at a Bagua map.
I'm
I
gonna
swear.
go get it.
Well,
just to check.
our listeners can't see the Bagua
I'll
map.
post this on YouTube.
Okay.
Or we could like if in the notes we could maybe like put pictures in there.
Maybe I'll have to check it out. I don't know. I'm new to all this podcasting stuff, but we'll figure it out. I don't even know. My office is a wreck, Kylan. I don't even know where it would even be at this moment, but
Right. It looks like a war just happened.
yeah, it does. Okay, don't share that.
You shared it already.
Yeah, I guess I kind of
You
did.
embarrassed yourself.
So, do you have any final thoughts about your reading and intuition? And I would just love to hear what you like. I know you thought it was super cool, and I love that you got to experience it firsthand. Any other words you want to share about it? No. So, well, that was fun. I enjoyed that. I think I want to have you on the podcast again. You're a really fun co-host.
I like being on the podcast.
I think you like talking in the microphone.
I like talking in the microphone, but also I talk a lot. So yeah, this is good.
This is great. This is great. Well, I love you so much, buddy. And you know what? I know that all of our listeners are rooting for you, and you'll have to check back in. Maybe we should record a follow-up because we basically did a feng shui adjustment. We brought attention to your intention. Let's follow up on this. We'll do a part 2. I'm so excited, Kai. I love you so much. Thanks for being you. You're the sweetest. I hope you enjoyed this playful episode. As I've mentioned many times before on the podcast, I have weaved intuition into all aspects of my life and my business, and it appears family has taken notice, and there's a real interest there, which is so wonderful. Kids are already so highly intuitive, and if we can give them the tools to understanding it and help them integrate it into their lives early on, we really set them up for tremendous success later in life. So to recap, we implemented a few things. We asked a very specific question to receive guidance. We then got very clear on what our intention was going forward. And we integrated the reading with a feng shui adjustment using a gemstone, in this case, green calcite. And from an elemental perspective, by using the green, we also brought in the wood element, which is all about expansion and growth. And so I will definitely have Kylan back on for a part 2 episode, and we'll plan to air that next week. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so that you're notified of that episode release. And while you're there, please leave a 5-star review. If you are interested in a Feng Shui consultation, as you can see, it's very intuitive led, not just by my intuition, but also yours. There's this really lovely interplay and intuitive conversation that unfolds in a session. And so if you're interested, please reach out via my website, jadescottdesign.com. The link is available in the show notes. Until next time, much love and gratitude.